Good evening. Welcome to Real News Live. How you guys doing tonight? Hi Nana. Hi Debbie. Hi Sandra. Hi Michelle. Hi Barry. Hi Debbie. Hi Susie. Hi Richard. Hi Karen. Hi Tia. Hi Lisa. Hi everyone. How you guys doing tonight? Hi Melissa. Hi Rodney. Hi Teresa. If you guys are coming in. How you guys doing tonight? Lots to talk about tonight. I know I wasn't live last night, but oh my goodness. Lots and lots to talk about. First thing, hypersonic missiles, Russia proving their point that they have them and they're capable of hitting bunkers underground with accuracy. That is huge. They may not be a nuclear tipped one, but they can easily change the payload out, and the payload are made for for nuclear for those weapons. That should say a lot to what America is saying right now, and to what is happening in Ukraine. This is a big deal. Hypersonic missiles that travel at hypersonic speeds that radar didn't even detect until after it blew up inside the bunker. I mean, this is a huge problem. They destroyed a massive amount of munitions when they did this. Everything from rockets and everything else that they were storing underground in this bunker site, thinking it was protected. Anti-aircraft, of course, and everything else. And nobody's really talking about what this means. I mean, hypersonic missile capability is extremely, extremely dangerous. And now Russia has proved that they have the accuracy and have the weapons. It's no longer a rumor. It's no longer Russia using it as false propaganda or anything else. It was proof by them actually using it. Not nuclear. And it didn't have to be nuclear. Proof of the warhead existing in the first place, even without a nuclear payload, is enough so people should be scared. It is devastating. Devastating. What's happening up there? And of course, this is just the beginning. Of course, as Biden and China, of course, can't get any kind of deal. And that China has the implications of assisting Russia in the call if they need it. So we know Russia already has hypersonics. We know China has hypersonics. China, of course, has a carrier killer missile now, the DF-21, the Dongfeng 21. And it's reported as a carrier killer. That means it can take out carrier ships, or U.S. carriers, aircraft carriers, with ease. It's able to carry a very high explosive submunitions or a 300 kiloton nuclear warhead. It also has the capability, it's been developed, space capability of anti-satellite weaponry, anti-missile weapons carrier. This could be crazy. I mean, it is crazy. It can easily be launched and take out a U.S. carrier. I mean, it has a range, I think, of 17,000 kilometers or something. Astronomical range for a carrier killer to be within their coast. China's stepping up their talk. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. China is taking up their stuff, their talk. It is honestly happening. I mean, look at what's happening in Ukraine. 700 citizens, of course, evacuated, and then shelling. Mariupol has been hammered all day today. U.S. officials confirmed that Russia launched hypersonic missile. U.S. officials have confirmed this now, that the hypersonic missile was launched against Ukraine. The first known use of such missile in combat. And the U.S. was able to track the missile only afterwards, not in real time. From the flight path afterwards, not in real time tracking, which is a huge problem. Us confirming that, our government confirming that it happened. A hypersonic missile was launched, and of course it hit. Just, it's a devastation. Bridges destroyed. Lots of stuff happened today. Fighting still in Mariupol is against Russian forces. I mean, they're losing. Ukraine is not going to end up keeping Mariupol after today. Kharkiv being heavily shelled. And of course, what are people here saying? Threatening Putin's life. Of course, Lindsey Graham calls for assassination of Putin. The assassination of Putin, even saying that, is dangerous. They could be interpreted as the U.S. advocating for killing. Literally. I don't know why Lindsey Graham said anything like that. Because as a U.S. senator, and someone threatens a Russian president, someone needs to step up and kill President Vladimir Putin for the good of the world, is what he said. How is that going to help anybody? You have somebody that's at the end of their rope, that has all the capability. I mean, here's the thing, that we said that all his troops were deployed. How is his military march over 200,000 troops? No, he did not arrest his right-hand man. He did fire some people. Which is crazy. Yeah, make a breastfeed electric buses. Yeah, it's all falling the same way. It's just sad. Of course, Russia, and we've been hearing these claims of Russia doing a false flag operation and everything else, and Russia's going to end up saying Ukraine ended up attacking or using, or Russia's going to end up using gas weapons or chemical warfare or biological weapons in Ukraine and blaming it on Ukraine. A little bit of a twist of a story came out, though. Russian news agencies are claiming, and Russia, of course, is claiming, that they had prevented an attempt from Ukraine to explode chlorine gas tanks in separatist territories and fall off. And what experts appear to say is the latest attempt from Russia to claim Ukraine is aggressive. But really, those and other sites and the locations, of course, like Kiev, where chlorine glass canisters were found by Russian forces, where diplomats were going to visit, which would directly draw everybody into this war. If diplomats were killed, of course, in such attack, and why would Russia want to draw in the U.S.? That's what I don't understand. And that's what a lot of people, that are questioning this whole story don't understand. Why would Russia set chlorine gas and explosives up in areas where there's going to be foreign people coming in to do evaluations on the damage that's been done and risk them getting killed and drawing in NATO into this war and forcing NATO to join this war? I don't think in any way, shape, or form Russia would do something like that. Russia's beginning to use more sophisticated weapons. The low technological weapons are failing. Yeah, because we're sending Ukraine every single weapon that we can. John, honestly, I don't think so. I don't think it'll stop the U.S. from escalating this, or the West and the European nations. And I think directly, because even the threats, or the statements, let's say statements, because we can't say threats, that Zelensky made today. I'm trying to find the statement that he made earlier today. Gosh, hold on one second. But Zelensky made a statement such as, if Putin doesn't come to the table and talk peace, he is going to attack Russia itself. That's the kind of statement Ukrainian president's making today. Trying to find the statement, but I can't find it. I was up earlier. I took it down, obviously. This would end up bad. Bad in a way we wouldn't want to be in. We don't want a World War III. But that's where it's heading at this point. From false flag operations, saying it's Russian propaganda. Russia's, of course, puts right into Russia's playbook about putting chlorine gas cylinders and, of course, claiming they found them. Well, why would they find them? Why wouldn't they let them explode and say, oh, it wasn't us, that must have been Ukraine? That doesn't make sense to me. We got hypersonic weapons being used now. China has moved carrier killers to their coast, which they're DF-21s, which require a very big vehicle to move them. It's a solid-fueled rocket engine, operates with a 1,100-mile range. It's ridiculous. It's a carrier killer. That's what it's called, the carrier killer. Of course, it started in 1991. This one, there's actually an updated version of this, the DF-21. I know there's a newer model that came out back in 2018 that China's been working on, we're not even talking about yet. That's something like a 3,000, 1,100 mile range. DF-26, I believe it is, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, the DF-26 is China's newer version of this carrier killer. And it's considered an intermediate range ballistic missile, but it's made with a first strike capability. This is a first strike capability, something that they can use the B version, of course. And it can be launched with pretty much killing a carrier within minutes anywhere off their coast. 33,000 or 33 or 3,100 mile range. Of course, was first pictured in a parade in 2015. It wasn't actually active. Of course, they claim in service 2016. But we know their technology is getting better and better. And that is a 1,200 kilogram thermonuclear weapon. It's a mobile launcher platform. This is something people need to be looking at. I think, Winchell, I think that's the only way this is going to stop. Yeah, Russia's frozen assets of U.S. people around the world now, which is ridiculous. Zelensky has a lot of talk. Zelensky has not been physically fighting. Okay, I'm not going to get into that. That's a tit for tat. That's what's happening now. No, they want Alaska back as because we're sanctioning them. That's just Putin's play, and I'll call that as a Putin's play. It's not a realistic thing. Getting Russia or getting the U.S. ever returning anything to Russia is just out of question. It's out of question. Alaska is never going to be getting by Russia. I mean, Alaska is a territory that could be taken by Russia, but we would just end up bombing it. It's ridiculous, though, what's happening out there. Just like today, another mother has passed away due to a rare brain bleed as a side effect of the COVID-19 vaccination. Look at that article, of course, it came out today. Not just the Business Journal, but several other people are picking it up. The AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine. It was Kim Lockwood from Rottingham, died after a catastrophic bleed on her brain. A rare complication. Let's say that again. I mean, COVID cases are on the rise. UK, of course, COVID cases on the rise. Health officials are watching to see if if the US is next, but the US cases are already starting to go up. Attacking Libya, which we've already talked about. Taking Western cities. And it's important because now Russia is not just taking little places. They're moving quick. They're doing what they need to take what they're going to do in Ukraine. It's becoming a very effective war for Russia. Of course, China is going to help Russia no matter what, Brian. I don't know how long ago her shot was, but if you look it up, I'm sure you can find out because it's in the story. I haven't gone through the story. I know what happened. This is ridiculous. Yeah, China had to wait for the Paralympics to end. They finished the Olympics. Now they're finishing the Paralympics, and now it's to find out what's going to happen. Belarus did not turn against Russia. I don't know who said that, but that's definitely not happening. Lots of propaganda coming out. Lots of stuff coming out that is propaganda. It's ridiculous. And we're talking about, like, people are talking about the risk of Russia defaulting. Russia has, I think, 180 billion dollars worth of gold. Gold itself, just gold, not counting their oil, not counting their wheat production, not counting any of that. Their yearly GDP. So their value of their dollar may be in a negative right now because they're sanctioned, but their dollar will come immediately back to what it was, or even greater after this. So what's a temporary sanction going to? What's a slap on the wrist to them? The dollar loses value temporarily. The government starts seizing more of their dollar back, and then when the dollar goes back to the original value, the government's richer. Russia's government's richer because, of course, they took in more of their currency during that time. It's just, yeah, our news is suppressing so much stuff. Our dollar's worth less already. And now they're talking maybe $10,000 an ounce of gold by the end of this year because of what's happening, because the events unfolding. Of course, the U.S. is bragging about what happened 4 years ago when the U.S. annihilated mercenaries, not the Russian military, but Russian mercenaries in Syria. And that wasn't an overnight thing. It wasn't an overnight thing. We have enough things here in the United States to be worried about. From fires, of course, as a state of emergency was declared in Texas and forcing evacuations, to extremely cold temperatures and storms coming through late in the year, to wondering what the storm season is going to be like this year, people going hungry in the United States as the dollar loses value, and the market, of course, is not holding. Production's down in vegetables and a lot of other crops because we don't have the amount of fertilizer we used to. But that's not a question that, of course, they're putting forward and are putting forward for Americans to see. Which they talk about how Ukraine or Zelensky calls for peace with Moscow, but then at the same time he calls for peace with Moscow, he threatens them. But we just talk about the call for peace. Calls for comprehensive peace talks. And then at the same time as calling for comprehensive peace talks, Zelensky makes appeals for foreign audience and countries to back his military, to move forward with fighting, to sanction Russia harder, to freeze wealth. Can't seize it, but they can freeze it. The time has come to restore territorial integrity and justice for Ukraine. Otherwise, Russia will lose. Losses will be such that it will take you several generations to recover. From Zelensky's mouth. Otherwise, Russia's losses will be such that it will take you several generations to recover. That is a threat to Russia. You're in the middle of a war, I understand, but when you're losing and you don't have food to feed your own people, and you have to beg people for military and armament and everything else, you have to beg people for everything that you got. Yeah. Yeah, China's making carriers at ridiculous rates and submarines. Their destroyer fleet is already bigger than the U.S.'s. They already have more destroyers and more ships out there than the U.S. Now they moved on to bigger ships and more exact big ships that can project long range warfare. You got Zelensky. He can take Ukraine. He's proven that. Like, after Zelensky said that today, you've seen what's happened in Mariupol? Mariupol has been devastated. First, they moved troops off to cut off Mariupol. They moved troops above Mariupol and actually cut off supply chains. Russia did. And then pushed troops in, just pushing right through the city now. Bombing buildings that separatists are that the Ukrainian military are hiding in. Just destroying the buildings. If somebody's firing a building, just destroy it. Keep moving. That's what's going to happen. And if somebody kills him before he could, I hate to see the world we're going to end up, John, because it will be beyond bloody. We're sending weapons at an alarming rate, not just a little bit. I mean, a couple $billion, $24 billion worth of weapons, even though we say it's 60 million or 600 million, whatever we claimed. It was $24 billion worth of stuff on that list the other day. 24 billion on the list, of course, that we claim is only $600 million worth of weapons. You can look back and see how much we paid for those weapons. I mean, it's public knowledge or public information. Anybody can do the math and add it up. You know, you put a list out publicly of what we're sending to Ukraine and claim that it's $600 million worth of stuff. And you add up the stuff on the list and it equals $24 billion, there's a big problem with that. Hypersonic missiles, yeah. The proof of the hypersonic missiles being at play is something bigger. Because hypersonic missiles were thought to be propaganda. And you guys all know that because China, of course, and Russia both claim to have hypersonics. And the U.S. has never confirmed this. Yeah. John, I want to know that. They just magically went in with no problems, no worries last week whatsoever. That's ridiculous. Our government, of course, no longer stands for us. Look at our southern border. And we're so worried about what's happening in Ukraine. So worried about their borders and their safety and their security. Sickening to me. It is sickening to me. I don't know what else to say about it. Saudi Arabia's oil price went up $8 a barrel today. Nigeria went up $9 a barrel. Angola went up $9 a barrel. Australia went up $8.75 a barrel. Mexico's oil went up $7.81 a barrel. Iran's oil, of course, only went up $4.62. But nobody can buy oil from Iran in here in the United States. So look at the price of oil going up. China's oil is now 107. Indonesia 111. You know what? But the United States oil price is still being falsely deflated. We're at 106, 107 at the highest, which is the European Brent crude, but the light crude, that of course the United States sweet oil, if you want to call it that, is 104. 104. How is that possible? Because we're dumping oil out of reserve at an alarming rate. That's what I want to know is how much oil is left in the strategic reserve. You try to look it up right now. I mean, literally, go to the strategic reserve, oil reserve. You go to the website, which is energy.gov backslash FECM backslash strategic dash petroleum dash reserve dash 9. And then current inventory. Click to open updated inventory window. You click it. Services are still not available. This has been down as soon as they released that. As soon as they announced they were releasing that 120 million barrels, 30 to Ukraine and 90 amongst the U.S. We still do not have access to how many barrels are left inside of our strategic reserve, which is a big question. How much oil are we dumping daily? Yeah, I'm not getting into TJ's video. He's the only one that's released a video so far. I'm waiting for another one of my buddies to actually come forward. But that's TJ. I know him, John. Um, yeah, that's what I want to know. How much oil is left? What's going to happen after that? When we hit $0 or 0 barrels in the reserve, you'll see what happens to gas prices, Bridget. Right now, we're falsely deflating them by releasing oil out of the reserves, and that's not a question. I mean, even stock markets are watching the same thing because they know when of course we stop flooding the oil with fake oil, that the market's going to go up. If you look at stock purchases, oil stocks have been purchasing at an alarming rate by big hedge funds because they know what's going to happen. And that should tell you when hedge funds are purchasing oil at ridiculous rates, buying up oil stocks, because they know what's going to happen. It's tragic. It is tragic. Other than tragic. As we're in a world that obviously doesn't look and see what's happening. They can't inflate it. They can't fill it with new oil. That's the problem because the oil doesn't. There's no oil on the market. Everybody went and sanctioned Russia's oil, and nobody understands that now there is a 4% missing, or 4% of the oil, or not 4% of the oil. 4.5 million barrels a day of oil are now not in the market. There's nowhere in the market that it's coming from. Saudi Arabia won't produce more. Venezuela won't produce more. If we make a deal with Iran, maybe we can get some oil from them. Who knows? Who knows the price that they're going to charge us? Because they're just to have them sign a nuclear deal, they want billions of dollars. So, but we'll pay them that, and then they'll break the deal in a couple months, and a couple years from now, we'll pay them that again to do the same thing, and they'll break the deal again within a couple months. And we'll just keep repeating the same cycle, hoping that it'll end up differently, but it never will. Yeah, we switch to summer blend. Gas will go higher. It's easier to refine oil when it is cold outside. It is easier to refine oil when it's cold outside. The problem is when it starts getting hot outside, no matter what, it gets scary. Definitely gets scary out there. hypersonic missiles, chlorine gas with explosives, of course, and found in Ukraine, where officials were supposed to go and visit this week. According to Russia, of course. That's not. I'm not going to say it. They actually found it or not, but this is really concerning to me because the U.S. talking about false flag operation, false flag, saying that it'd probably be a chemical weapon, it wouldn't be biological, and that the U.S. probably wouldn't jump in if it was a chemical weapon. And then all of a sudden, Russia to even find any chemical weapons, like chlorine gas and cylinders with explosives taped to them. Where these diplomats were supposed to visit to see how much damage was done so far. I mean, that doesn't sound like. I mean, if you're fighting a war with one country and you don't want to fight NATO, why would you put chlorine gas cylinders anywhere where it could easily hurt somebody that would cause an international incident where you would actually be drawing in NATO? I don't see it happening. It is just sickening. Yeah, yeah. And then, of course, finding the weapons themselves. Let me tell you. Fire going on out there right now. I know. That was 4 hours ago that the fire started in the town hall building in Leo Virgin. Rescuers are currently working on the scene, and that started 5 hours ago. I know you're trying to send me updates right now, Rodney, but literally I have that page up constantly. I'll show you guys right now what I'm talking about. When you guys send me updates, I constantly keep this. This is my phone. It's constantly updating. Anything that happens, I get the updates immediately. I try to stay up to date on them, so I know exactly what's happening. Yeah, I'll be taking calls here in just a second. I'll go ahead and take calls now. What the heck? You guys are welcome to call in. Let me get it pulled up though, because it's not pulled up on my computer. I just realized that. There we go. We're pulled up, so we're able to take calls now. If you want to call in and talk about what's happening. No, Ronnie, don't say sorry. I like being informed. I'm just letting you guys know that I do have a lot of tools at my disposal that I keep constantly updated. Anybody wants to call in, you're more than welcome to. First dance recital, that's awesome. Hi, how you doing tonight?
What's up, man? It's Billy. How are you?
How you doing, Billy?
Good. Can you hear me? Am I coming in clear?
Coming in crystal clear. Everybody can hear you.
All right. What I wanted to say tonight was that my brother told me about this show on Netflix. It's called Ages of Tanks. And he said it's a 4-part series. He said fast forward to part 4. And in that part, they talk about the Battle of Grozny with Russia in 1995 and how the Russians brought their tanks into the urban areas. And it showed how the Russians made a big mistake with how they used their tanks. They brought them in, and how the Groznyans, the Chechens, would ambush them. They would get them bottlenecked on a road, and they would like attack the first tank in the column and the last tank in the column. And by that, then they would be able to, immobilize the rest of the column because they'd be stuck, and then they would be attacked. And they were doing that a lot. So my brother was talking to me. We were discussing. He says, and then now think about that. Russia had to look at that and learn about that mistake back then. And people are asking, well, why aren't they taking Kyiv yet? They didn't come into Kyiv. They should have been in Kyiv yet.
There's still 1.5 or 1.2 million now in Kiev. 1.2 million people there. Moving in would be suicide.
Yeah, well, see, that's the whole thing. Maybe they learn about the mistakes they made in Chechnya with their tanks, and they're not going to bring the tanks in and get stuck in a bottleneck like that again. Because think about it. All these people, whatever the fighters are, they're going to be hiding out in all these buildings and these windows and waiting for up. And they're going to
this is the thing. They are waiting right now, and it's a war of attrition. Here's what happens. A war of attrition is fought when people get tired. People get tired of fighting. And Russia's going to win that fight in the long run because they, like, even at their parade this past weekend, over 200,000 troops got paraded around. And supposedly Russia has all their troops in Ukraine right now, but they were parading around 200,000 of them. I mean, that should say a lot about what's being said and what's actually happening.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of troops was ridiculous that they paraded around in vehicles and everything else, and a military parade this past weekend.
So yeah, I just want to let people know it was a great show. It shows the whole history of the tank. And
I don't think people realize like what Russia's doing now, because a lot of tanks aren't seen on the ground. But when Russia takes an area now, they're actually backing their tanks into structures, destroying the structure as they back into it, so the tank is undercover. So you're not seeing satellite imageries of these tanks and this 40-mile long convoy that disappeared. A lot of them are still all around Kiev, but they're backed into buildings. I have photos that came in from people that I know around that are in there. Of course, taking photos around their neighborhoods, and they're not attacking civilians. That's something that was really concerning, because a lot of people were saying they're attacking civilians for no reason.
Well, literally, it's so easy. All it takes is the Ukrainian army to tell the media, they killed 125 children, and look, we set the strollers. I mean, that doesn't mean nothing. And then the media runs with it. Before you know it, it's all over the American media, all over the place. And they're showing the 125 or so strollers in the courtyard, and it represents a child that was killed. But nobody's verifying that. The media.
But the only verified children is less than 3 dozen now. Less than 3 dozen children killed, period. And here's the thing: Russia has said they have not used cluster munitions. That's what Russia's been claiming altogether. There has not been a single video or photo of them doing this, but Ukraine has, and they've admitted to using them.
Yeah, well, the problem is every time Russia says something, it's pushed away as Russian propaganda, but everything that the Ukrainians say is taken as it's truthful and this and that. Hey, I was watching this show. I forgot who. Oh, it was Tucker. I was watching Tucker. I think it was last night or the night before, and he had a guy on, a former.
What?
We're at war with Russia right now.
Yeah.
So we may not be in direct combat with them right now, but he says, first of all, by us supplying the Ukrainians with arms and money, and then also by helping them with that stuff, and then he also said that we're helping them with our satellite imagery. Like we're basically telling
we're
them
their intelligence office. We're Ukraine's intelligence office, which is
intel.
ridiculous. Yeah.
So he says basically we're at war with them right now, but it's but we haven't had combat with them yet. But we're at war, and people have to understand that. So.
Well, the scary thing is, like, Russia. What do you think about? I'm going to be really quick before you go there. What do you think about the proof that Russia proved they have hypersonic weapons now? It's not a question.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. This missile that they said they fired, the hypersonic missile.
It's already been confirmed by U.S. intelligence that yes, it happened.
I know that, but I'm saying, where did it hit though? Was that the one that hit the base?
No, it actually hit the bunker storage. I don't know if you guys know, because they didn't release this publicly. Ukraine has a bunker storage system on the west side of Ukraine that was storing the missiles and all the ammunitions that were coming in. It's deep underground. I think they said 20-something feet underground. the hypersonic missile not only went to its target, went through 20-something feet of solid ground, went through the concrete, and then exploded inside of this
Wow.
enclosed,
So how did Russia
destroying
get
all the
intel on
munitions.
that? So the Russian intelligence must be pretty good because they're getting
Well,
all this
Russia's been allocating all their satellites there. I mean, even Musk has said stuff about the number of satellites that are over Ukraine.
Now, that missile, was that fired from a ship or a land base from Russia?
That was fired from the middle of Russia, way in the middle of Russia, and literally the U.S. couldn't track it until after it hit its target. The U.S. didn't even know it was fired until after it hit.
Russia said that it traveled 2 miles a second. I'm like, that you can't even comprehend that.
33,000 kilometers an hour. 33,000 kilometers an hour.
It's absurd. Oh, man. Jesus. Anyway, all right, man. I just want to check in and tell the people about that series. It's really good. If you're into tanks and the history of them, it's really something worth watching. So, all right, man. Have a good one. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. God bless, man. God bless. Scary stuff, though. Scary, scary stuff. Well, no. Well, they could call any resident out to be an active soldier, John. But believe it or not, Russia has now volunteer fighting forces. Russia has a lot of people that are volunteer fighting forces. Thirty-three thousand kilometers an hour is equal to 20,508 miles an hour, or seconds. Let's see, how many kilometers a second would that be? Let's see how many feet per second that is. Feet per second is 30,000 feet per second. 30,000 feet per second. That is crazy. That's a lot faster than Mach 5. I think that's around Mach 13. Let's see. Not mistaken, it would be like Mach 13. No, it's a lot faster than Mach 13. It's oh my goodness. It is, let's see, Mach 26. Mach 26. Hi, how you doing tonight? It's Chris with Real News Live. You're live on air.
What's up, Chris?
Hi, how you doing?
Not bad. It's John.
How you doing, John? So that missile travels at Mach 26. Can you believe that? I was just looking it up.
But
Well, at the
still fast.
the speed it travels is 20,000 miles an hour, which is actually Mach 26.
It can't. The Iron Dome or nothing like that would be able to stop that missile.
No, not even. You can't even use. I mean, even if you use the rapid fire machine guns or the missile defense systems on boats, which are only used on boats, they would only have a millisecond to start firing. Much less, they would never be able to track the missile. The plasma cloud would eliminate that.
So, do you think those 3 missiles shot up early on? are hypersonics?
No. The only missile that was confirmed hypersonic was this missile that was fired and went well into the ground into this bunker and destroyed it. And it had a conventional payload on it, luckily, but that missile could hold nuclear payload. And, at first it was just Russia talking because everybody can say they have hypersonic capabilities until it's actually used in the field and proven that it can actually hit a target. And hitting a bunker target is extremely hard. I mean, it has to explode within an exact range underground and everything. So seeing that actually... Sorry,
how many of those would they have, do you think?
I don't know. It's been over a year since their development and their testing was finished, so it depends how many have they made. But showing they have one, even if they only have 20 more, and they tip them with nuclear warheads, you're talking catastrophe. They could easily take out Europe, much less anything else they wanted to. We know China has the same capability.
I'm a Canadian, but I like to keep up on things with America, and I see, like, in your Congress, a lot of, like, Republicans want America to, like, keep inching forward to, like, cause a war.
Well, it's Republicans and Democrats. And Democrats want a war for a different reason. They want it because they want to be part of NATO, but they want Ukraine to be part of NATO, which is not a good deal for anybody on any fathom because Ukraine is so corrupt. NATO already has enough corruption within it that adding more corruption to the pile would not be good.
Yeah. It's kind of hard not to be corrupt, though, when you're the #1 uranium deposit in the world.
Yeah.
You're going to be making sideways deals left, right, and center, right?
Well, the United States is so corrupt because of that. I mean, people don't even realize how much we sell enriched uranium. We sold it to Russia. We sell it to other countries all the time. I mean, when Hillary was, of course, Secretary of State, she authorized the deal of weapons-grade uranium going to Russia, or enriched uranium to weapons-grade, being sold directly to Russia. But nobody talks about that because that never happened. Right. Nobody wants to see it. But it happened. I mean, and it's happening. It happens all the time. We look at what's happening on Iran right now. We're about to sign another deal with Iran, and they'll stop producing nuclear material for probably 3 months. After their check clears, they will break their deal and start producing it again, taking billions of dollars from the United States in the process.
That deal bothers me as a Canadian because, like, I used to work in the oil and gas industry in Western Canada, and the Keystone Pipeline would have, like, put a lot of my friends back to work, and I don't understand why they're not doing it, but it's kind of weird.
Yeah, it may have only been 600,000 barrels a day. I mean, but that's a lot of jobs. That's a lot of people getting back to work. And, like, if people here in the oil industry here, people are saying, oh, there's jobs everywhere. There's not. I mean, there's not jobs everywhere because I know people that work in the oil industry that work as riggers and everything else, and they can't find work because there's no rigs available to hire. They're talking about 9,000 open permits, but people don't realize just because you open a permit on a site doesn't mean it's ready to drill. It requires 27 permits in the United States before you can even start drilling here in the U.S. So say they issue the first permit, which when you buy the land, you automatically go and apply for that permit. There could easily be 9,000 of those just sitting there that haven't been approved yet.
Messed up.
That 9,000 number of approved permits looks ridiculous when we had over 400-something thousand permits approved during Trump's era. And I'm not for Trump. I'm not against Trump. I'm not for Democrats or against Democrats or Republicans. I'm about the Constitution. I'm about what's best for our country and best for our people. And this is not best. Leading us into a war with a country that has nuclear capabilities just like ours, or maybe better than ours now, hypersonic weapon technology. I mean, that means they could hit the U.S. in under 5 minutes from launch to strike. We would never know what's happening.
The part that a lot of people don't understand is, like, as part of NATO, America and Canada and, like, all these countries have to disclose what they have for weapons and equipment. And Russia doesn't. Like, Like everyone thinks of what they have on paper is what they have, and I think people are pretty mistaken.
Well, like if you look at what China's nuclear capability is right now, it still shows 6 nuclear missiles. That's all it shows.
Yeah.
But China's, since we know what China has been doing for the last several years. I mean, let's look. I mean,
Up north, the camps.
well, no, they've been mass producing. Or they're at 300. They were at 350,000 or 350 nuclear warhead capable inventory. That's what, but none of them are usable according to them. They're staged or ready to be staged or retired.
I was talking to one of the people in chat, and they were saying, like, China has a weak navy, but a lot of people don't realize too that they've built all those like fake islands in the South China Sea, and like they launched 2 aircraft carriers and 6 subs in the last year.
Yeah, and not only that, the amount of destroyers they've made. They were producing at one point 2 a week. Destroyers, 2 a week, and then they switched over to aircraft carriers, and they've been deploying those like crazy now.
And those are all nuclear powered, so that's another nuke right there just on the water.
Yeah. Well, that, like, the submarines are, how many nukes are in those submarines? I mean, because we have some nuclear submarines as the U.S. that hold 100 and something missiles, which is ridiculous. They're smaller warheads, but they are nuclear missile or nuclear warheads.
It freaks me out. I'm on the east coast of Canada, right by New York and Boston, and if you ever look on a map of like hot targets for a nuclear war, it's always right there.
Yep. I mean, well, the first thing they would take out, they would go for Pentagon. They would take out, if they're going to use hypersonic missiles, this is my projection would be. They wouldn't even have to take out nuclear silos in the U.S. because we no longer have a dead man switch. They could easily target D.C. and the Pentagon directly. Take out major government. I mean, if you take out the 16 or the 13 layers of government, I mean, which would be easy if Congress is and the House is in session, you could lock out everybody at one given time.
In this situation, do you think they'd always have a couple people in different cities?
Yeah, but they're not doing that. That's the problem. They think we're untouchable. Here's the thing. I think the hypersonic missile yesterday woke a lot of people up. A lot of other stuff has been happening. We know certain government officials have been disappeared for a while. People don't notice that, but I think a lot more of that will start happening now. I think we'll see a lot more of that going further, especially after this hypersonic missile test. And China, I mean, we know they have these carrier killers from 2015, the DF-26, and they have the DF-21D. But then they have newer ones that we don't even know about. And they have hypersonics as well. So if they're hypersonics, I think China's the one that developed the hypersonic, not Russia, to be honest.
And all these satellites that they're rushing, putting in space, like you don't think they have things on those that they could just drop?
Well, like we have, I don't know if you guys ever looked up, we have these titanium rods that we could drop. But China has their own space program altogether. We don't know what they have in space. We know some of what Russia has in space, but China we know barely little because they don't even use the same computer operating system as us. They don't even use a regular binary bit system like us where it's an equal number. It's an odd number of bits, which doesn't make sense, but it works somehow. I can't explain it. But we can't even communicate with their technology to find out what they have or try to find out.
Yeah. Well, it was good chatting with you, Chris. I'll let someone else call in, brother. I'll be in chat.
Yep. God bless you, man. God bless you. Stay safe out there. Russia sells to China. China sells to Russia. They're partners in this. And we're going to see a lot of stuff coming up. Hypersonic missile went into a bunker and destroyed a massive payload of weapons, Brian, that Ukraine has been getting from all around the world. Russia and China, I mean, they're partners with this stuff. China has come a long way. China used to be, I mean, yeah, China sells us their garbage. I know that. On purpose, I think. They sell us stuff that's made to break because they can sell more of it. And that's China's business model. I mean, we buy it. It's not like we don't. I mean, China could easily make a higher grade product and send it to us, but then we're not buying as much. They could produce it cheaper and sell it to us for the same price that we would buy a higher grade product because we're going to buy it anyways. And we'll buy another one when that one breaks because that's just how Americans are. But I think a lot of people overlook that when they're talking about Chinese ships and Chinese technology and Chinese military technologies and stuff going forward. I mean, a lot of those things people overlook because China sells us garbage and we think, oh, Chinese products are cheap. Well, the stuff we get is cheap. But some of the stuff that China makes for their own population, I mean, you could buy a Chinese dish or go buy dishes from Walmart. They're made in China. They're cheap. They break within a year. You have half the dishes are broken or missing. You go to China and you buy a set of dishes. That same set of dishes might last you 15 to 20 years without breaking a single dish because of the quality difference between what they sell to America and what they sell to themselves. Because Americans will buy that disposable stuff. Because we're in a disposable economy. Yeah. Russia has S-400s, S-500s, S-600s. Russia has S-600s too, twin. The newer ones. Yeah. Well, China, that's the porcelain in China. The slip they use for Chinese dishes and the slip they use to make American dishes, even though it's both in China, are two different things. China perfected porcelain and ceramics long ago. I mean, long ago. And just look at I'm using that as a good equivalent because ceramics came from China. They're the ones that developed the true ceramics that we use today. But yet they sell us ceramics that we buy at an alarming rate. But I can pull up, let's see, China. Real Chinese ceramics here. No, this is Chinese. It's ceramic. This thing's from back in, what was it? 1935. But this is real Chinese. China. It's not going to break. 1935. This has been around, used, abused, thrown around. Kids play with it. And that's the fact. Is we buy the garbage. So why wouldn't China sell us the garbage? Why would China sell us better stuff? And why would China even try to sell us better stuff? If we're going to buy the garbage from them. Left and right. Over and over again. Julian, I just seen what you wrote in chat. But I'm going to sign off here, you guys. I'm going to say God bless you. I know I've been on here a little bit long tonight, and I know people have things to do and people to see and lives to lead. It's Saturday night. Luckily, we are still free. God bless you guys. Have a wonderful night. God bless America. Please stand strong and tall during all this. I know it's a lot going on in there in the world. But I know we can make it through this together. If you guys can afford to support the channel, please do. We're definitely in need of any support we can get as Easter is coming. And we have a lot of money left to raise. Otherwise, I'll be paying for it. But either way, we're going to help as many families as possible, and I'm proud to be there to be able to say that. God bless you guys. Have a wonderful night. God bless America.